This podcast is proud to be part of the TalkSport Fan Network. TalkSport. Powered by fans.
Good evening and welcome to another edition of The Away End. I'm Craig Courtney and this evening I am joined by Adam from the Heroes of HP12 podcast for our Wycombe Wanderers friends. So thank you, Adam, for joining us. Tell us a little bit about your podcast and how long you've been going, etc.
Yeah, so podcast was set up by our host, a lad called Michael. I believe it was sort of set up 4 or 5 years ago. And the original intention was that it was basically going to be about sort of the historic players, if you like, the legends, hence the name, the Heroes of HP12. Sort of started, then I think COVID hit and everything all went a bit tits up for us all. And I think this is now our 3rd season. It's our 2nd full season, but our 3rd season. It's a weekly podcast on all things Wycombe Wanderers. And we've kind of gone down the route of trying to find that balance between something that's really professional and slick, but at the same time, like kind of 3 lads chatting in a pub rather than asking each other questions. You'll hear we have a bit of banter with each other, and we're giving each other stick on social media all week and stuff. So yeah, it's good fun.
Yeah, so I mean, similarities there. We're a group of what is the name? 6 of us that do Tilton Talk. So for your listeners, we've been around. This is our 14th season doing the podcasts, and we've got a mixture of people that travel both home and away. We're all season ticket holders as part of the show, and similar to yourselves, really, bit of banter, bit of fun. We go live every Monday on Facebook and YouTube, and then obviously out via various podcast routes afterwards. But it's all good fun and all very light-hearted. We do like to have a laugh with the listeners and get them joining in as well. So sounds very similar to yourselves. So also a little bit about Wycombe then. So I understand that last season, was it 16th you finished in the league? So perhaps not as much of a run that you would have liked, but
it was a bit higher than that. I think I can't remember the exact position, but yeah, I think we were actually our form from January to the end of the season was very, very good. And had you taken that last sort of 6 months form or 5 months form, we would have ended up 4th in the league.
Mm-hmm.
We had we had a horrible start with 2-3-0 defeats last season. Then we went through some slightly more positive results, and then October, November, and December were absolutely hideous. And there were some real. I was going to say dark days, not dark days compared to what we've had in the past. Having nearly gone bust a couple of times, and sold the training ground and closed the academy and all sorts of things like that. But it got to the stage where it was really, really bad last year. The manager is an absolute legend, Matt Bloomfield. He played for us for nigh on 20 years and is now our manager. So some of the fans started to turn on him. It all got a little bit uncomfortable. We made a couple of really good signings in January. He had a really good window and things turned around. And yeah, like I say, between January and the end of the season, we were one of the form teams in the league. There was a really pleasing end to the season. So yeah, we're obviously a much, much smaller club than yourselves. And we're kind of proud to sit in that sort of space of being a small town club. But at the same time, we've spent a very, very long time now punching well above our weight. So yeah, we'll see what this season has to bring.
So, I mean, tell us a little bit about your pre-season. So I know obviously we'll come on to the game last weekend, but tell us a bit about your pre-season. How have things gone? What's your incomings like in terms of, have you had any transfers? Did you lose any players? How do you think the balance is of your squad coming into this season?
Yeah, so as far as pre-season was concerned, as far as the games are concerned, we only had a couple of games in front of fans. There was one at home against Watford that we won 3-2. Really good, really positive performance. It wasn't like a pre-season friendly at all. There
Mm-hmm.
was scraps, there was people kicking lumps out of each other. It was a real feisty game. The other game that was in front of fans was away at Swindon, which we lost 1-0. Again, decentish performance, just failed to take our chances. And we had some games behind closed doors. They included beating Portsmouth. I think it was like two 60-minute matches, if you like.
Yeah.
4-0 overall, we beat those. And then there was a friendly against Notts County, which we lost 1-0 at Loughborough University. And then a draw with Chelsea in there as well behind closed doors. So mixed results. I think the feeling coming out of the summer is one of positivity.
Mm-hmm.
The club was sold by our owner Rob Couig during the summer, and we've been
Okay.
taken over by a guy called Mikhail Lomtadze, who is a Georgian billionaire.
Nice.
He's made all of his money from sort of financial tech and other bits in Georgia and Kazakhstan. And our chairman, he was brought in as chief football officer, and he's now interim chairman. Is a guy called Dan Rice, who's done a lot of work at Everton, particularly with sort of youth recruitment, if you like. And like I said earlier, we got ourselves into a position where we nearly went bust probably 10, 11 years ago, and we closed the academy, sadly. So the biggest thing for the new guys, if you listen to them talk, it's all about being sustainable. It's all about growing an academy. It's evolution, not revolution, doing things slowly. And that's reflected really in the transfer business that we've done. Our first team the guy who was our first team goalkeeper up until sort of the end of Feb last season, Max Striek, appeared to have a bit of a fallout, and he's gone. He's gone to play his football back in his home country in Poland. We lost Chris Farino. He went out on a free transfer. He's gone up to Bolton Wanderers. He was a big centre half, but missed a lot of last season with injury.
Yeah.
He was a young guy who we took a bit of a punt on in the Ainsworth days, and came very, very good. And on his day was excellent, but like I say, just wasn't fit enough, unfortunately. And we've replaced them with players who have got experience at this level, but also a good age profile. So I think last season, the manager alluded to it a bit in one of his interviews in pre-season. There was a lot of teenagers and there was a lot of 30-somethings, but those in the middle were really lacking. And when the going got tough in November, December, January, we were either relying on 34-year-old Sam Vokes, 36-year-old Gareth McCleary, or 19-year-old Freddie Potts, and there was nothing really in the middle of that. So yeah, we brought in Tyreek Bakinson from Sheffield Wednesday. It looked a really impressive signing on the face of it. It was probably the poorer of the debuts on Saturday. Didn't have a good game at all. What it's like, particularly at this level.
Yep.
Making your debut somewhere like Wrexham is always going to be difficult. So hopefully he comes on a bit. We signed a left back, our long-standing club captain and left back Joe Jacobson left last year. So we've replaced him with Dan Harvey from Milton Keynes. We've brought in a centre back from Exeter, a striker from Shrewsbury, and then we sort of fluffed the development squad and the youngsters up a bit as well. So we brought in a lad called Jaden Bartolo. I think that's how you pronounce it. He's from Gibraltar, 19 years old. He came on actually as a second half sub on Saturday. He looks like he's got a bit about him. And then we got a couple of signings that we sort of picked up in January last season when things really started to turn around. That was Matt Butcher. I think he came in from Plymouth, and he's a real classy operator, central midfielder. Loves having the ball in tight spaces. He actually didn't start on Saturday, which was a bit of a shock to a lot of us.
Mm-hmm.
I think he'll be starting tomorrow, and I would expect him to start against you boys on Saturday. And then Berily Labala, joined us from Burton as well in January, and he was one of the real big reasons behind our upturn in form. Very, very, very energetic, pacey, forward. We were playing a 4-2-3-1. He can kind of play anywhere in that three behind or as the lone striker.
Yep.
And he was a huge part of our upturn in form last season. So generally speaking, I would say steady, not spectacular as far as the signings are concerned. A club of our size who have been through what we've been through over the last sort of 10 or 12 years, I would have been concerned if a new owner had to come in and started throwing around 2, 3, 4 million pound on single players. But there's a lot of investment going into the stadium. We've moved training ground, so we're at Harlington now, which is Chelsea's ex-training ground and QPR's ex-training ground. So lots going on in the background. But you'll see when you visit on Saturday, the old girl's getting a bit tired down there, so there'll be some investment in the stadium as well at some point. But yeah, it's all moving in the right direction and all positive stuff.
Excellent. So it's very similar, actually, if you take into account the Birmingham side of things, where we'd had a very lack of investment from previous owners, new people taking over back last year, and really this summer has been a summer of rebuild. They've taken, the situation of the stadium and just completely revamped all the inside. The executive side of things has really come on, and now actually from a fans aspect of it as well, we're seeing more than ever before. Fan parks coming up, restructure and rebuild of a club shop. So when you guys come up, you'll see all these different things. It's immense.
Brilliant. Yeah.
The weekend, having a sellout of our first game after a relegation, it's the type of thing that you kind of pinch yourself as a band.
Incredible, yeah, absolutely.
Didn't expect that at all. So no, it's all good so far. And today made our 11th signing, so we've just brought in a right back as well. So on loan initially, but with a view to a permanent move if we want to. So it's all really good, and onwards we go. So we mentioned the weekend. Obviously, you sort of suffered a 3-2 loss at Wrexham, which in the circumstances is no bad and no mean defeat, really, because they are a team that for me are going to be pushing again in this league as they aim to get themselves as high as possible. And we know that their owners are so driven towards Premiership, and that's where they want to be. That Birmingham coming off the back of a 1-1, hard fought game, good, very well balanced Reading side that took it to us basically, and the proverbial baptism of fire, I guess, is the way that I would describe it. But we carried on, and good old Alfie May coming through with the goal to keep it as a 1-1. So we're hoping that his run continues as we go into the weekend.
It's absolute. We'll talk about that in a minute, but it's absolutely guaranteed to continue against us because Alfie May always scores against us. Whoever he's playing for, he always scores against us. So.
It's weird because there's so many people that I'm speaking to at the moment that are all saying the same thing. It's like, best player, he's going to score your goals. You just got to make sure that he's given the ball, and that was what we saw a little bit of. Was lacking at the weekend, but that's nothing that another few days of training with the League Cup sandwiched in between can't help with. So I look back over our records, and last time we played each other was back in 2021. Actually ended up with a 0-0. So a tight game there. But over our past 5 games between the clubs, it's seen one draw, 1 loss for Birmingham, and 3 wins. So it's a good record over the Wanderers. But one thing I will say is I always remember them being tight games, and we've never ran a mockery of any games that we've played, which is a credit to the way that you play. So what do you expect, coming into Saturday's game? What do you think will happen? Being your first home game of the league campaign, what do you think we'll see, and what should we expect? What should we look out for? You've named a few players, but what's your style of play that we should really look out for?
No, we, rightly or wrongly, under the 10 years under Gareth Ainsworth, became very, very well known for the up and atom, physical, long ball, dark art side of the game. And look, I'm not seeking for any sympathy, but we're in a position where for the whole time that Gaz was there, he was relying on free transfers. He was relying on players playing injured. He had himself signed on until he was 46, I think.
I was going to say, I remember when he took over and the way things were, and
yeah, we had Bayo Akinfenwa playing up front at the age of 40. so look, we found a way of playing, and the one thing that Gaz did really well was every single player who played for him would have run through brick walls for him. And I think what Matt Bloomfield's done is he's come in, he's identified the fact that he wants to play a different style of football, which is fine. Started seeing some of the fruits of that at the end of last season. It's a more possession-based style with the ability to go long if we need to.
Mm-hmm.
And just little things like, the grass is much shorter now. We're much better playing more expansive football on bigger pitches, whereas when Ainsworth was the manager, the pitch was the smallest it can be in the regulations. The grass was as long as it could be. We made it as uncomfortable as possible. So I think what Bloom's just trying to do is he wants to keep the personal side of things. So even still now, when we make a signing, Bloom's obviously played under Gaz for the best part of 10 years. So he's seen it work. We do personal checks on every player that we sign, and that's chatting with coaches, chatting with people that the guys know behind the scenes at the clubs they've been at, and they want character references for everybody. So we've got a bunch of really good lads who are decent pros. I still don't really know what to expect from us. I think if we click, I think we can be really, really sharp. We look good going forward on Saturday. We were very, very, very poor defensively. The left back and the left-sided centre back are both new to us, haven't played together before. Obviously, new goalkeeper as well in Nathan Bishop, and it was a bit of a struggle defensively. But at the same time, as you've said, you've just made your 11th signing, was it? There's going to be some settling in for a lot of those. So I would expect to see goals. I'm glad we're playing you now and not in 6 or 8 weeks, because I think you'll be a different team in 6 or 8 weeks' time. But I'd like to think we'll make it as competitive as possible. It's a really friendly club, so look, the guys who are coming down will have a great day. But hopefully we can see some goals, and it's a competitive match.
Definitely. So, a little bit of a challenge for you. I like to do this with all of the people that attend on the away end, and it's to see if you can name some players that have represented both clubs. In fact, transferred between both clubs.
Yeah.
So quick fire really. Can you name 5 that have represented both clubs over the years? And I've got to say, I was actually quite surprised with the raft of names.
There's quite a few. I'm just when you said it just before we started the call, and there's all these names coming in. Do you want them that have played for the 2 clubs, or only that have transferred between the 2 clubs?
Played for the 2 clubs.
Played for the 2 clubs. So you got the 2 easy ones first. We got Ryan Allsop, who I think started on the bench for you. At the weekend. We had Rocky during our tough times. Top lad, love him to bits. We actually got a cat called Rocky that was named by my, at the time, 4-year-old son, who absolutely loved Ryan to bits. So we'll try and grab him on Saturday. He played for Cardiff last year at our place in a pre-season friendly before he moved. I think he went up to Hull, didn't he? And we managed to grab him after the match. So we'll try and say hello to him. Then Labala, I think, played for you guys as well. I think Roger Johnson.
Yep.
Back in the day.
Guy that would run through a brick wall. He's phenomenal for Birmingham, and loved him during his time. Friend of the show as well. He's actually been on and joined us for one of our. It's been great. He's
a good lad as well. Really good lad. I liked Roger a lot. And I'm trying to think of some others. I've got some real left field ones that I'm really, really not 100% sure. I'm going to give them a go. Did Andy Rammell play for you guys?
Haven't got Andy Rammell down on my list.
No. And the other one that I thought, again, going back some time, I don't think he did. I want to say John Williams for some random reason. Was he with Birmingham?
It's not a name there.
No. Okay.
I mean, I'll give you a few that we've
Yeah,
got.
go on, give
So,
me a few.
you've mentioned you started off with a goalkeeper, and I actually thought you were going to come out with this one, but David Stockdale.
Ah, of course.
So he obviously played for both clubs.
Yeah.
Talk about defenders and the hardcore defenders. You mentioned Roger Johnson, but another one for me that stood out when he was at Birmingham. It was Gary Ablett.
Yeah.
So God bless his soul. We've
Yeah.
also had Dan Scarr represented both clubs. Courtney.
Ah, I didn't realise he'd played for you. He plays for Wrexham now, doesn't he? He was on the bench on Saturday. Yeah.
Going back over the years, John Cornworth, Steve McGavin, Danny Wallace.
McGavin. I nearly said McGavin. I couldn't remember.
You've mentioned Labala and Roger
Yeah.
Johnson. Jordan Ibe represented obviously both
Yeah.
on loan. Tommy Mooney, what an absolute legend.
Oh, Mooney, absolute legend.
And then two other legends. One particular legend of the game. The other one actually more of a manager situation that he really did take off in the game. So Stevie Claridge, first of all, legend across both clubs and also for the game. In terms of managerial side, Graham Potter represented obviously both clubs. And
I didn't realise he'd played for you. He played 6 games for us. Yeah.
Most recently as the manager of Chelsea. So some really good names that have overlapped between the two. So come to the weekend, second game of the actual league season. Obviously, both clubs will have had an opportunity to have a couple of games leading up to this. Even though I will say I do think there'll be changes to the Birmingham squad ahead of the game with yourselves in the League Cup at Charlton. So give us your predictions. Always a toughie, but what's your prediction for the day?
Yeah, it's tough at this time of year, isn't it? But I'm kind of going down the route of both sides are still a bit unsettled. We're going to concede a goal because Alfie May's playing. So I'm going to say 2-2.
Well, so a nice high scoring draw. We like that. I mean, for myself, just on our live show, and I think we've got to bounce from where we were on Saturday. I think that was that little bit of a homecoming side of things for most players, some of which haven't played in front of attendances that high. And you mentioned Alfie May there. He's actually one of the ones that went public and he was really nervous because he's never in front of a crowd that big. Yeah. So I think going into the game, I've said on our live podcast, and I'll stick with it, I think we'll win 2-0. I can just see that coming. And hopefully that'll take the case on the day. We've got a sellout following from Birmingham, which the one thing I will say is every away game this season, I can't see a reason why we won't sell out our away following. There's always great following with the guys. Yeah. And they'll certainly come down and make a row on the day. And the area will definitely, should we say, have a few benefits from the drinking side of things, because there's always a few. And in fact, the question I've got to ask, any recommendations as to where the fans should go for a beverage or something to eat and stuff before the game?
Yeah, well, actually, there's not too much around the ground. So if you're the sort of person who wants to drive to the vicinity of the stadium, park, and go and get a beer, there is a pub, but the Hourglass, I don't think that they're allowing away fans in, but there is like a little village for the away fans in the stadium. Oh. However, if you're coming down on the train station is a very, very short walk from the town centre. And there's some real good there's a couple of real nice, really old pubs in the town. You've got the Flint Cottage, which is just opposite the train station. Again, just check with it being such a large away following, just have a check and make sure that these places are allowing away fans in before you go in. You got Weatherspoons in town, which is always a popular one for the football supporters.
Can't beat us, mate.
If you're coming down on a car down the M40, there's actually in the village that I live in, there's a pub which is very often used by football supporters. It's actually one that's used quite a lot by Manchester United supporters club. It's on Junction 5 of the M40, a little village called Stokenchurch, and a pub's called the Fleur de Lis. There's a really good, sort of well-priced lunchtime, simple menu. Cheap beer. You're not going to pay London prices for your beer.
That's got to be a bonus.
Yeah. It's a proper football pub. The landlord's unfortunately an Oxford fan, but we can't all be perfect. But it's a real good football pub, and he'll be more than happy to have you guys in there. So my choice would be if you're driving down, pop into the Fleur in Stokenchurch at Junction 5 of the M40. Have a bite to eat in there. If you're getting the train down, go and give the Flint a try, or one of the 5 or 6 pubs in the town centre, the Spoons, or maybe even the Antelope.
I'm sure that anybody travelling down will take you up on your offers, and I know, like I say, sell out following from Birmingham, so there'll be a fair few coaches definitely on the train, and I know people myself that are driving down, so they will.
Yeah, well, the pub will take coaches. So if there's I don't know if you've got independent coaches that go down, but if you've got any independent coaches that are travelling and you want the contact details, I can ping those over to you, and Chris will take coaches. A big old car park. So yeah, United had for the FA Cup final, they had 5 or 6 coaches in there over the period of the morning and afternoon running up to it. So as long as you know you're coming, you'll be well catered for and you'll be well looked after in there for anybody who's going by road.
Excellent. That's definitely worth knowing. I mean, we have got the official supporters clubs, and they will no doubt be looking for areas to congregate in. So I will give those a mention.
The great thing about that one as well is it's not like right in town, so you haven't got to battle through traffic. It's literally off the motorway. It's 2 minutes from the motorway, and it's probably a 10-15 minute drive to the stadium. So it's just close enough to be convenient, but it's far enough out that you're not going to get stuck in traffic. You're not going to get stung for beer prices. And it's a nice little sleepy village. So you'll have some nice beer, some nice food, and it's a bit of a character pub. So yeah, like I say, if you've got any coaches that want to stop there, give them a buzz and they'll get you booked in, I'm sure.
Yeah, you'll have to drop me across the details and I will get that.
Yeah, great.
So again, thank you very much for joining us. It's been a good insight towards
no problem. Thank you.
At the weekend. Hopefully we'll do this again as we get closer to the game at St Andrews, and hopefully see you up there for that one as well.
Yeah, looking forward to it.
Always good, and like I say, a wicked following down there is certainly going to make a lot of noise. Back the boys, and hopefully come away with the 3 points. So, Adam, thank you very much indeed for joining us.
No problem at all. Thank you.
Really appreciate your time, and as always, good luck for the rest of the season. Apart from
the
Saturday we play and the Saturday we do the return game, and keep right on. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.